The first words hit me like a knife, sharp and unexpected. I need a new marriage. This one's trash. Her voice was casual, almost playful, as if she had cracked a joke over coffee. But the laughter in her eyes was brittle, strained, and I felt the weight of the words sink into my chest. I looked at her, my Sarah, the woman I had loved for over a decade, and forced a smile. Glad we finally agree on something, I said, trying to match her tone, though my voice wavered just slightly. She chuckled, a short, clipped sound, and took a sip of her latte. The cafe around us buzzed with Saturday morning energy. Families laughing, baristas calling out orders, but none of it mattered. It was just her and me, and a truth I hadn't wanted to see. For a moment I wanted to brush it off. Maybe she was exaggerating, maybe it was just frustration after a long week. But the way she shifted in her seat, avoiding my eyes, gave me pause. Her fingers fiddled with the napkin, twisting it into a tight knot as she stared out the window at a world that suddenly felt distant. Sarah. I started, hesitating. Are you serious? She looked at me then, her gaze softening, almost pitying. I mean, don't you feel it too? We're stuck. We've been stuck for years, and we keep pretending it's fine. I felt a twinge in my chest. We had our struggles, yes. But we had laughter too, small moments I had thought unbreakable. Did she really see it all as nothing? I thought we were fine, I said quietly, my hands tightening around my cup. That's just it, she whispered. You thought we were fine. Thought we were fine. But fine isn't enough anymore. Her words were a storm I hadn't prepared for. I wanted to reach across the table, grab her hand, demand reassurance, but I couldn't. Something about her expression told me that reassurance wasn't coming. The next few days were a blur of tense silences and small, careful conversations. I tried to reach her, to bridge the growing chasm between us, but every attempt felt like navigating a minefield. And then the first real clue appeared. Not a confession, not an admission, but a message on her phone. It was from a man whose name I didn't recognize, filled with familiarity and inside jokes. At first I tried to rationalize. Maybe it was a colleague, someone from the yoga class she attended on Tuesdays. But the way her phone lit up on the counter, her quick flinch when I walked into the room, told me otherwise. I didn't confront her immediately. I needed proof, something undeniable. So, late one night, when the house was quiet and her breathing soft beside me, I went through her messages. The conversations were intimate, personal, and laced with emotions that should have been mine. He called her my light, she called him home. They planned weekends together, shared secrets, inside jokes, memories I hadn't made. The betrayal was meticulous, carefully hidden, and utterly devastating. I sat on the edge of our bed, trembling, phone in hand, staring at the woman who slept peacefully beside me, unaware that her world had shifted in the quiet of her own betrayal. Morning came, and with it, the pretense of normalcy. She kissed me on the cheek, asked if I wanted coffee, smiled like nothing had changed. And yet everything had changed. I didn't say a word about the messages. I watched her, I observed, and I waited for the right moment, if there ever was one. That evening, she mentioned a business trip, her eyes glinting with excitement. My stomach sank. I didn't ask where. I didn't want to know. But I knew. 2 weeks later, my worst fears were confirmed. I had followed her, heart pounding, mind screaming at me to turn back, to stop. But I couldn't. The cafe on the corner of Maple Street. Laughter. The hand holding. A kiss. My Sarah, my wife, wrapped in someone else's arms like she had never loved me at all. I didn't approach them. I didn't shout or cry or beg. I simply stood there, hidden, heartbreaking in ways I didn't know were possible, and watched the life I thought I had been living evaporate before me. When she came home that night, I met her at the door. My face was calm, too calm. Late night? She asked, slipping off her coat. I had some errands, I said. And then, almost quietly, almost cruelly, I added, I saw you today. She froze. For a second, her carefully constructed composure cracked. Just a flicker, a shadow of guilt. Saw me? Yes, I said. At the cafe. I didn't need to tell her everything. I didn't need to describe the kiss, the laughter, the hand in hand. She knew I knew. The silence that followed was suffocating. I could feel the walls of our home pressing in, heavy with unspoken words. She sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. She started, her voice trembling. I didn't mean for it to happen. I didn't mean to hurt you. I shook my head, a bitter laugh escaping my throat. Didn't mean to hurt me. Sarah, you've been living a lie for months. I saw the messages, the plans, the jokes. How is that not hurting me? Tears ran down her cheeks. I was lonely. I felt invisible. You were always busy or tired or, I don't know. I felt like I didn't matter anymore. The words hit me differently now. Not excuses but admissions. She was hurting too. But her way of coping, her choice had shattered me. I tried, I whispered. I tried to see you, to be here. But you left anyway. She looked up, eyes red, desperate. I love you, but she didn't finish. And that was the cruelest part. The next few days were a haze of arguments and tears, of silence and anger. We slept in separate rooms, walked past each other in our own home like strangers, our conversations clipped, wary, explosive. And yet, through the chaos, a part of me still wanted her, still hoped that we could find a way back. One night, I sat at the kitchen table, the house dark except for the faint glow of the refrigerator light. She came in, hesitant, carrying a cup of tea. I can't fix this, she said softly, sitting across from me. I can't undo the things I've done. I know, I replied. But I need to know why. Why him? Why now? Her gaze dropped to her hands. I don't know. I thought I could have both. Love you and feel alive again. But it's not possible. It's never possible. The truth was raw, a wound laid bare. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't wanted to face. I still loved her, but I couldn't stay blind. I couldn't pretend. The betrayal had changed the foundation of us, and some things once broken could never be whole again. Weeks passed. Counseling, conversations, attempts at reconnection. We talked, we cried, we fought. And through it all, I watched her, this woman I had once trusted completely, and I saw both the love and the fracture, the humanity and the flaw. One evening she left for work. I stayed behind, staring at the empty chair at the dining table, the quiet of our home louder than ever. I thought about forgiveness, about trust, about whether love was enough. And I realized slowly that love alone couldn't erase betrayal. It couldn't bring back the stolen moments, the lies, the choices made in secrecy. When she returned, I was waiting. She paused at the doorway, hope flickering in her eyes. I've made a decision, I said, voice steady, though my hands shook. I can't stay with you like this. Not yet. Maybe not ever. She sank to the floor, silent, and I knelt beside her. I don't hate you, I whispered. I just can't be with someone who doesn't see me, who doesn't choose me. Not like this. Tears streamed down her face, but she didn't speak. There were no more jokes, no deflections, no trash comments about a marriage we once dreamed would last forever. Just silence. And in that silence, I understood the depth of what had been lost. The next morning, she left for work again. I stayed behind, the house empty but not lonely. The betrayal had fractured us, yes, but it had also forced clarity. I would survive. I would heal. And perhaps someday we might meet again. Not as husband and wife, but as two people who had loved, hurt, and learned the unbearable cost of secrets. I poured myself a cup of coffee, staring out the window at a world moving on without pause. And for the first time since I had discovered her betrayal, I felt a strange kind of calm. The storm had passed, and though the wreckage remained, I knew I could rebuild, on my own if nothing else. Because love without trust is just a shadow, and I could no longer live in shadows.